Are you guys ready? This is Izetta's finale, Izetta the Last Witch, episode 12. It's been quite a long ride, so let's just get down to it. The big climax for this was Izetta versus the former White Witch, Sophie. Let me just start off by saying that I found it interesting that Izetta was still wearing that white outfit for this final battle. It was just the last episode that she was wearing that red dress again. I think that one seemed a lot more appropriate, especially given what happened with the whole White Witch situation. But anyway, the final piece of the puzzle got revealed for Sophie. It turns out that the former king's wife didn't only betray Sophie out of jealousy. It was actually a request from the dying king himself. The king was aware of how powerful Sophie was and what it meant for the world going forward. I'm pretty sure this could have been resolved in some other way, but unfortunately they decided it best to have Sophie taken out. Fricking frack. Honestly, this whole situation just keeps on getting worse and worse for Sophie. Sophie is on the villain's side in present day, but no one could really blame her for her actions. Sophie had just been royally screwed over in life. She would definitely be a candidate for one of the top backstab characters. As for their magical battle, it turns out that Izetta's priority was actually to take out that magical nuke. Even with the additional support that Sophie was getting, Izetta was still able to hold her own. I am pretty happy with what we saw in this battle. The show definitely was on a tight budget, and a good chunk of it was spent on this final episode. It was just filled with a lot of magical bombs, a lot of magical levitation of things here and there, one of them flinging around trains, another one chucking planes and tanks. As for the ending of this whole battle, this whole buildup of Izetta going up against the former White Witch. I think practically all of us watching Izetta up until now had a good idea where this show would end. Was Izetta really going to be true to his name and actually be the last witch? Once again, this ending reminded me somewhat of the ending resolution for Code Geass. Izetta ultimately was ready to give up her own life in this final fight. Fine was also hesitant, but agreed to her final decision too. Izetta's sacrificial plan was actually pretty logical. How do you resolve this whole witch situation? Well, simply just drain the entire world of its leyline magic. All of it completely gone. By doing this, Sophie was taken out, all the Sophie clones were too, and all the magical enchanted weapons all gone as well. The thing I was wondering about this whole situation, just based on some of the things that Izetta mentioned, I do wonder if this was really her last resort plan. Their whole plan ultimately was to drain the leyline magic, but what would have happened if Izetta had succeeded in disabling the nuke? As for the actual ending of Izetta and Fine, there's both good and bad parts for this. I do in some way like that Izetta is still alive at the end. How exactly did she survive? Well, Izetta might have used the same trick as Batman from the Dark Knight Rises movie. The thing is, I really think this ending would have been much stronger if Izetta really had died. It would have been an actual sacrificial ending from the final witch. It's not like Izetta is in a good position now. Beforehand, it seemed like Izetta had been paralyzed. That magical stone must have done something to help her with this, but now it's gone. It's possible that now Izetta in the end is at least partially paralyzed. There's also that issue of having used the magic stone. We don't know anything about it except for what we were told about it. Izetta was physically dying in those last moments while using it. If Izetta survived, there's no way she didn't lose a huge chunk of her life. So combining all of this together, it would have been a much stronger ending if we didn't get the last few seconds at the very end. Now, despite this, I did say that I'm in some way happy to see Izetta still breathing. Izetta did find a way to actually become the last witch. All the leyline magic in the world has been drained. Izetta is now a normal person. Whether Izetta is partially paralyzed, and just how much of her remaining life is left, is really just something we're left to wonder about. Now, for some of the other characters. I do have to include Fine and some of these other characters. There was a lot of build up for Fine and Izetta almost equally at the beginning of the show. Later on, Izetta did end up becoming the main focus of the anime. Fine was really only highlighted when it came down to her relationship with Izetta. Not saying that this is necessarily a bad thing. Fine was just clearly second to Izetta in the later half of the anime. Again, not her fault, she was just playing a different role. It's not like she had magic anyway. As for the guy in the black suit, Sieg. Sieg actually did sacrifice himself just to buy a little bit more time for Fine. Sieg ultimately ended up dying after seeing that young soldier. It turns out that he wasn't a total monster, or at least not completely numb to his previous actions. Deep down inside, he was still hurting over having taken the life of that young soldier. It seemed like karma kicked in for him at this last moment. Now for Berkman. Berkman did end up helping them get inside and quickly just said, "See ya, I'm out." Berkman was really just a type of character that logically saw himself doing whatever it took to keep himself alive. It did seem like that pilot took him out at the very end, but even Berkman was still able to slither away. He managed to get away in the end with only a missing eye. We could only guess what he's up to in the US years later. Finally, let me mention one last thing that I really enjoyed about the Izetta anime. Izetta the Last Witch was clearly on a tight budget. I don't know if you guys also noticed it too. If you did, let me know. It's possible that only I did, since for a lot of these episodes, I was literally looking at them frame by frame. The Izetta anime was clearly not animated almost as well as almost any other anime of this year. I think this was a great example where the studio knew its weakness and got creative with the animation. There were a lot of unimportant scenes where the animation heavily dipped, but where it really counted, like the magical fight scenes, that's where they went all out. It was definitely something I appreciated. Alright, so how did you end up feeling about this final episode? Did anyone else also feel like Izetta should have died to make this ending stronger? If you did prefer Izetta being alive, in what way do you think this makes the ending stronger? Oh, and how would you guys rate Izetta overall? Honestly, I never really been a fan of the number scores, but a lot of people prefer something concrete. I'll go ahead and adopt a rating system for my anime list. Is Izetta a masterpiece, or was it great? No, not really. I really did end up enjoying the trip over these last 12 weeks. Right now, Izetta for me would fall somewhere between very good and good, so between a 7 and an 8. If Izetta had sacrificed herself, I think it would have been a very good score, no question. I'll personally settle right now for an in-between. That's not possible on my anime list, so I would round my score up to an 8. So then, please be sure to give this Izetta final review a like if you did enjoy it, especially if you made it all the way through. Thank you all you guys that have been watching and sticking around for my Izetta reviews until the very end. This now completes my very first weekly review of a full anime. It was definitely a learning experience. Also, be sure to subscribe to keep up with the latest anime content. You really should subscribe if you made it this far. Once again, thank you to all you guys, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.